What's up, you absurd junkies? Welcome back to another episode of Absurd Curiosity Podcast. For those who are new, welcome. We mostly talk about medicine, science, technology, gaming, whatever involves STEM and fascinates us. We talk about it, and we like to learn and laugh from it. I'm your host among hosts, Cole Adam Davis. I'm joined by the always beautiful Stephen Pallotta.
How's it going?
I'm joined by the just amazing dude, has like 30 different talents, Sean Pickett. Let me restart that because I know you don't want your last name out there.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Otherwise known as...
I just posted it with my full name on Twitter.
Well, otherwise known as Nuclear Geek. And then we have the man, some say our guest, invented the Frunk just to place a puppy in it. Others think that he's the sole reason that Tesla exists today. It is Earl the Frunk Puppy.
Hey, thank you. Great to be here. Thanks for having me on. Glad we can finally connect.
So I'll go ahead and get us started. We have a couple of icebreakers, and these are questions from us, the host of Absurd Curiosity Podcast, and we also have a couple questions from our community on Twitter. So we're going to start with a question from Cole, and these are going to kind of break the ice. We already broke the ice a little bit already before this, but just to kind of break it a little further. So Cole, go ahead and take it away.
You got your Model X. Congratulations, by the way. But why didn't you shout out Nuclear Geek on that post whenever you got that 3D printed you that nice custom 3D cap, trailer cap?
Why don't I shout it out?
Right off the gate.
You didn't say anything. You didn't say anything about it. You were just like, look at my 3D cap on Twitter.
That's terrible. What a jerk. That's amazing. I put it on, it's my wife's car. I put it on there all the time, and she hates it. She thinks it's obnoxious. So I actually lock it on there so she can't get it off. She does, she's not really into, the Frunk Puppy banner, being on there. But,
that was our next question. How does your wife feel about your Twitter account?
She's come around a lot, especially when I was deployed last year, and she had to kind of do everything, like run the show and, run the store and do all that stuff. And she got into it. She was taking pictures of the dogs in the front and doing all that stuff. So she's just shut her down so she wouldn't do a better job than me. But she's come a long way. Now, she was absolutely horrified when I got my Frunk Pup license plate without telling her. And it came in the mail, and it was not happy about it. Especially when I told her it was like actually going on the car.
Is that on the 3 or the X?
On the 3, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You should have done it for the X. That would have been funny.
I know. I'm not that brave.
All right, Earl. So my question for you is, how do you find so much time to tweet?
Well, Twitter's a real addiction. I mean, I find that you can just sneak in a tweet at any moment. I mean, it's unbelievable how much you can tweet in a day. I look at my account, and then there's something like 110,000 tweets, and it's a little bit depressing. But I don't know if you've followed me long enough to watch me take breaks every once in a while. So every now and then I get totally disgusted with it, and I'm like, I'm done, and I'm back within like 2 hours. It's so addictive. You're like, well, I've just got to check one thing. I got to check one thing, and you're just sucked into it forever. So
that's one huge issue that I've been facing lately. Is like I'm like, okay, I've got this important person on Twitter. I need a message, and I get on there. So I'm like, oh, I got 6 notifications. I'll see who wants to talk to me, and then I fall into the trap.
There was a time where I only ever took like one Twitter break, and it was, I think, for like a day, just to see if I could even do it for a day. And I found myself I just had a southern accent. I found myself throughout the day still clicking, like as soon as I would unlock my phone and immediately click right where the app was, and I deleted the app at that spot.
That's
and I was like,
creepy.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
That's how addicted I was to it.
Yeah. It's funny because when I'm on there tweeting and people will yell at me and be like, you're on here all the time and you tweet too much, right? But then if I really am busy, I'm doing a lot of things, I'm not on for a few hours, I will come back to so many messages. Like, are you okay? What's going on? Yeah, I'm just get around.
Finally get. So I got a question for you. So do you even own dogs? I mean, how deep do the smoke and mirrors go?
I do own dogs. I have two. They're on a walk right now, but
Sure.
yeah, Norman and
that's
Wilson are pretty.
convenient.
That is a good cover-up.
Oh, convenient.
Yeah, they're up there. I guess I could grab them. They've been on a couple podcasts, but yeah, they're Wilson's like the most gentle, wonderful soul. He's so submissive and wants to just serve people. And Norman would just urinate on your face. He doesn't care. He's his own dog, and he's very photogenic. He takes great pictures in the front, but he's a nightmare most of the time. But we love him.
So we have two questions from our Twitter that are coming in. So first one is from N. Naphthalus. Dear 28 Days Later, I'm an aspiring elitist, but I'm not toxic enough. I've not even once been the target of an article or of an attack article. What can I do to increase my toxicity? I've tried eating milkweed, but the doctor in the emergency room said I must have really misunderstood something. I don't understand the milkweed reference. I don't know if you do.
I guess it's toxic. I don't know. So it's pretty easy, actually. I think if you hang out in the electric article comments and just call them out on some of the factual errors, you will quickly be blocked, labeled as toxic. But it takes a little while to spawn. So between the time that I got blocked and then the article where I was toxic was about 2 years. The tweet was about 2 years old that he included in the article.
Seriously?
So there's an investment time that it takes to get your toxicity back.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like you have to start this process, and then eventually it'll hatch.
So you're telling me? So wait, he held the grudge for 2 years before he posted all that?
Yeah, it was 2 years. He's such a turd. It was funny because the tweet he even took out of context. Like my very next tweet is very nice. Like because at the time I listened to their I liked Electric. And the very next one, it was clear I was joking around, but he just cherry picked that one and held on to that thing on a note under his pillow or something. And then one day,
I'm gonna get it one
time. Yeah, and then he included all of us, and he had. I mean, his grudge with Vincent was really old too. I mean, that was around the same time, so he just collected everything.
Oh wait! Who are we talking? Who wrote the? Is it the? What is it? Fred Lambert?
Fred, yeah. Fred wrote that article.
Door handle man.
Why are you so mad with
he was
free
mad at-
roasters? Like, who does that?
I know. But, it's the most, honestly, the only reason I tweet about it is because there's such a contingent of people. There's a whole group of Fred apologists that come out. I could care less. I really don't. I don't care about Electric. But if you tweet something about them, they will show up. And usually when they do tweet at me, I call them Fred. I'm like, hi, Fred, They will just and they'll give you a whole bibliography. Well, this is why he's so important to the movement. They get all fired up about it. And that's honestly what I enjoy the most. It's who are you? Who's
one of the best
doing that?
Someone getting really upset on someone else's behalf.
Yes. Right.
All right,
That's
so our second and final question from the community is from Watermelon Judkins. What are you when are you getting Tesla solar and Powerwalls? How many Powerwalls would you get, and what size solar system?
So a couple things. One is I put my money down for solar here in Ohio, and Tesla sent my money back to me.
What?
I bought mine first day. They sent my money back.
They're not coming or anytime soon.
It's funny. I follow the job postings for Tesla for Ohio and everything. I get alerts and all this stuff just to see what's going on. And they have a ton of postings constantly for solar installers, roof installers, all these things. And then, then all of a sudden you get your money back. You're like, what's going on?
It'd have to be something legal.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. I heard it was so many days after the purchase that there's some type of consumer law that they had to refund the money or something like that.
Do you know why they ended up refunding you?
No, it just said that we'll contact you when it's closer to I forget what it says.
It says you're still in line or something like that. It's not canceled, but
Yeah.
we're refunding the deposit.
Are you just getting Tesla solar, or are you
Yeah.
going to get the Tesla shingles?
I need a new roof. So
Tesla
I bought
shingle
a
sounds like a
house,
new disease.
it needs a roof, and so I need to either figure out: am I going to roof it and put solar on it, or do I want the solar roof if I can get it?
Yeah, mine was just panels. So, but yeah, I got my money back. The other thing is that, being in the military, I move every few years, so it seems a little silly to kind of dump a bunch of money into power walls and solar panels, and then you pick up and move, and somebody gets,
The benefit of
The
having
benefit of
brand
everything.
new- Yeah,
and then I have to tear my roof off and throw it in a truck. But my wall charger's coming with me. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I'll take mine out too and install a plug right there, and then promote the house with having an EV plug. I sold my last house with the NEMA 1450 socket in the garage, and I got probably a good uptick in people just based on they were calling in like, "What's that? They have an EV plug, an electric vehicle plug in the garage? What's that about?" And I was in the middle of the country, and they would come out and check out the house because of it.
Oh wow!
So it's not that it increases the
great.
value, but it increases the
Yeah.
It's like
at least the eyeballs. Yeah.
yeah, you can see it. You're like, oh, I'll check that out.
Yeah.
So, Earl, we know your entire social media life, right? But we want to know who the real Earl is, right? What gets you going in the morning, man?
I think I'm fairly boring. I mean, I'm very much a family guy. I've got my kids, dogs. I'm the pandemic has not been a problem for me. I'm pretty much an introvert. I'm okay with being home, so all of this is fine. And I am very passionate about my job. I feel so lucky. I feel like, and I'll talk about this later. I really enjoy what I do, and that kind of keeps me going. But yeah, mostly just family, watching my daughters grow up, and then of course my passion for Tesla, which sucks up the rest of my time. Probably like a lot of people, I got on Twitter because my family doesn't want to hear about it anymore. So you have a whole audience of people that endlessly want to hear about. You post the dumbest video, even though they make fun of my videos, but they still want your videos, right? It's a great crew. It's very, it's fun and it's playful, and I really enjoy it. And I wouldn't. Well, I'd say I wouldn't be on if I didn't enjoy it. I don't know. Some days, but I really do love it. And I've met a lot of great people. I had two events. I had one right before I left for deployment where people came, and we had, not kidding, 28 Teslas show up, and got to meet people for the first time, and that was a really odd experience. It's like I had been online dating a bunch of people, and now we were actually going to meet in person, and I don't know if you're going to like them. But it was a good experience, and then I got to go to the Cybertruck event a couple months later, and then I got met all the quote famous Twitter people out there.
And then you became one.
It was really great. So a lot of the personalities online, they really are fun, cool, interesting people, and it was weird to land there, and you have you're setting up rides and stuff from the airport with people you've never met before. Anyway,
who did you end up getting picked up by?
Who picked me up? It was Tesla Raj and Zach, I think, Black Model 3.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's cool.
I know people by Twitter handles.
Good.
Yeah.
And,
It's bad, man. It's bad.
yeah, but it was great, and you see these people online, and you don't know what they're really like, but it was like I've known them for a while,
For me, online, knowing people online and then finally meeting them in person, I don't know. For me, every single time that I've done it, it's been absolutely amazing. I'm not talking about Tinder or anything like that, but I had friends that
Those are amazing too, Cole.
I've had friends on Xbox or gaming stuff that I've played with years, and I never met them in person. And when we finally meet, it's pretty cool. It's weird at first because you're like, that's what you look like. Because I don't know, I just found it interesting. That's what you look like, huh?
How do your coworkers feel about you talking about Tesla, though? I'm since you're starting talking to hear that everyone's annoyed with it, because I have the same problem. I work with physicists all day, and so I've convinced two of them to buy Teslas, but most of them are like, we have to reserve the first 5 to 10 minutes of every meeting that we have to talk Tesla first. And then move on.
Well, I had a coworker a couple doors down who also bought a Model 3. And if I ever needed to talk about tweets or something, he was ready to go and we would talk. And he's since left the job. He's close by, so I see him once in a while. But I don't have that person anymore. I don't have my Tesla buddy that wants to hear about it. But my office is pretty decked out. It's not surprising, with several Tesla items. And people do ask about it. The other day I had a patient who had my Frunk puppy mug on the table. And he goes, "Frunk puppy? What do you have, a Tesla?" And I'm like, "Oh." And then he had heard of it. He said, "No, it's the only car I can think of that has a Frunk." So we started chatting about that. But cool. I don't get to talk about it too much at work, but not as much anymore.
Do you think it's going to be interesting whenever the first patient comes in and you're like, "Oh, you're Earl from Frunk Puppy"?
I don't know. It was weird when I thought for a minute that person recognized me. I just paused for a second, like, "Oh God,
it's all over.
What did you read?"
All over.
Besides Twitter and all things Tesla and your job, what other hobbies do you have?
I like to play the guitar. I do some singing. When I was deployed, I was actually there was a little deployment band over there. It worked out pretty well because COVID hit. So usually deployment sites get these weird B, C level bands that come in. Like Cisco was there and they were singing the song, and it was pretty amazing. But when COVID hit, there were no more bands, and we had a band. So we were the most popular band on base because it was the only live entertainment that you could have. And we, toured the whole place. And it was a real blast. That's been a hobby of mine for a long time. I played in college and stuff. I used to play out acoustic. I do enjoy some video games. I played The Last of Us 1 and 2 when I was over there because I had a lot of time in the evenings.
What system do you play on? Or do you have a preference?
Well, right now I just have the PS4.
Come on, you didn't drop big money on the PS5?
Well, and I love the Switch too. The Zelda game was incredible, and now my daughter started it, and I'm just as into it.
Which game?
Was it the Breath of the Wild?
Oh, Zelda! Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
Zelda is beautiful.
My kids play a lot of Mario on it.
What I love is the stupid game Overcooked. Have you played it?
Yeah.
No.
You have to. It's so dumb. So it's just like people, and you're making food orders. So you have to cook burgers and put it on a bun, and then put the right toppings on it and deliver it in time. And I play it with my daughter, but you really need a strategy. Somebody has to be in charge, and somebody has to tell people, you're going to get the buns, and you're going to get this, and you're going to cook this, and I need more meat, and I need.
Is it specific to the Switch?
It's pretty crazy. It's on the Switch, yeah.
Yeah.
It's also on. I think it's on the Xbox too. It's called Overcooked. It's really addictive and it's really dumb. And they throw all these curveballs at you. So there'll be things on conveyor belts or earthquakes or you have to do things on food trucks, but they're driving next to each other and sometimes they pull away and your little guy falls off. Anyway, I don't want to oversell
it. That's fun.
It's worth a try, but I do play that with my daughter in the morning sometimes.
So, how do you personally separate Twitter and real life? How do you realize, okay, this is when I need to take a break?
Whenever I get to the point where I feel like it's not value added in some way, if I'm on it, I'm really annoyed or arguing with people or irritated by it, I know I got to just put it away for a while because it should be light. And I typically try to keep my account pretty light. Sometimes people don't get it. Sometimes people take me seriously. They don't understand my sarcasm.
I took you seriously once.
Did you really?
Yeah, I thought you were like angry at me. I was like, oh my god, what did I do? I ended up DMing you, and then Cole just makes fun of me all the time for it because I was like, hates me now.
It is my favorite tweet from you. It was whenever he like asked like, "Are you from Ohio?" And you were like, "Shut your goddamn mouth, Steven." And I was dying laughing, and he was genuinely worried. Like I understood that you were joking.
Like I said, I'm like Earl, Elon. I'm like. Earl's up here,
no.
and I was like, I upset
so
Earl, and I'm devastated right now.
I can see how that would really upset you too, Steve.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And the thing too, I was like, Earl's one of the sweetest people that I know. So I'm like, if that came out of Earl, I'm like, I must have really screwed up here. What did I do?
That's so funny.
I do enjoy turning on people occasionally. That's why I'm friends with like Jeremy on Twitter, because he's terrible. He's a terrible person.
I love Jeremy though. He's one of my favorite Twitter people of all time. He's
on my watch. I friended him on the exercise app. I don't know what I was thinking. So then of course he like screenshots it and starts sharing it.
We are here to call you out on that. We have 85 people in an Apple Watch competition that we run called Witness the Fitness. And why are you not in the competition?
I'm in.
You're in?
I'm in. Include me.
You are?
Oh, you're in? Okay.
Okay. Well, we're starting the next one in February. You can join right now if you want, just to keep track of it. It's still running. But we do them for 25 days on, and then however many days are left in the month, and then we'll start the first one so we start the next one in February 1st. And we have 85 competitors this month. It takes you closing your ring 3 times, basically. 3 times move goal. And it sets your move goal at twice your weight. So, whatever, twice your weight in calories, and then 3 times your move goal
for me.
in your calories, and then 3 times your exercise goal, and then 14-hour stand goal to get the full 98 points available each day. And we're over halfway right now. Jeez. And there's like an 8-way tie or something for first.
Yeah, there is an 8-way tie.
It's serious competition. Like the people bring it.
We have we're 3D Nuclear Geeks 3D printing a first place trophy. I'm not sure if we're doing second or third place. And
we're doing second and third place medals.
Medals, okay. And then also we have we're partnered with Elon's Accessories. So I think we're giving away a screen protector and a car tray. Yeah,
exactly.
And this is our first ever one that we're doing.
Right. Yeah, we were doing them privately for a week long each. We were doing a week on, a week off. And we had like 8 people in it, and it was going really well. And we're like, man, we need to open this up to bigger audience. And we only did it for like a week, and we got 85 people in it. Apple Watch is pretty awesome.
Cool. I'd love to win like first place and get that 3D printed trophy, and then never mention where I got it or thank anybody.
Never mention it all where it came from. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
I just put it in my next to Norman. Never talk about it.
Just leave it in every single Frunk puppy picture ever, and not say where you got it.
Internet. And when people ask for it, be like, I have no idea.
What is that? I have no idea. I don't know what that is.
I just picked it up at a gas station like 4 years ago. It's like just been here ever since.
Yeah. Found it.
Yeah.
So Earl, I have a big one for you here. So what have been some of your greatest accomplishments in life so far, and how have they changed you along the way? And then I have a follow-up to that one.
Oh my gosh, in life?
In life, entirety. From day one to now, greatest accomplishments, and how have they changed you?
I think the low-hanging fruit is finishing school. That was a big deal. Getting through a doctorate was torturous, and really set me up on the path that I wanted. There's a lot of things you can't do in kind of the therapy field unless you're a licensed psychologist. And related to that, I was able to compete and get a fellowship in neuropsychology, and they're not easy to get. So, getting through that, and then being able to do that job is an accomplishment. But to probably be, I think it's not really an accomplishment, but I take a lot of pride in my marriage. I'm like very connected to my wife, and feel like I really found my partner, and it's been amazing to really like grow with somebody, and change. And
John's so happy about that answer. Just the biggest smile I've ever seen from Sean.
I love her to death. She's fantastic.
That's awesome, man.
I think you probably know through Twitter. I almost lost her in 2018. She had a brain aneurysm burst, and
wow,
it was really scary. The doctor told me, like half the people that happens to don't make it to the hospital, and then once they get there, a third of them die, and they're going to do. They're going to check it out that night, and he told me that if they had to do surgery immediately, she might die. But and then the other third have severe disability, and then a third make it through the first night, and then after that, there's these vasospasms. So as your brain heals, it can your blood vessels tighten up again, and that kills people. So there was multiple days of doing scans of her head.
Wow.
To see if that was happening, and they were happening, but not bad enough to get. It was just terrifying, it was a really growing experience though, because when you almost lose somebody like that, I loved her then, but then afterwards we had to make a lot of your life is just going to be changed after that. So I think we've only grown a lot closer after that. I take a lot of.
That's something you should.
I feel very fortunate.
You should take pride in that, man.
And it's a lot of work. I hope she feels the same way.
How did you guys meet?
We met like a lot of people these days. So we were both separated. I was married before. I know it's hard to believe because I'm so amazing, but
I'm the same way.
On my way to getting divorced, and you have to wait, and there's like that period in between. And I moved out of, so my ex moved back to Pennsylvania, and I was in Colorado by myself, and I moved into the first available apartment.
How old were you at this time?
I was, oh my gosh, this would have been 2009, so 11 years ago, would have been, I don't know, 30, 36,
okay.
37.
Gotcha.
My math is up. So I moved into this apartment when I didn't know.
47? Is that what you just said?
I'm 45. So whatever.
Dude, you do not look 45.
You do not look
bad.
45. Wow. Virtual high five, bro. Wow.
Filter on the camera. But
what is your skincare routine?
That's what I'm saying. What?
But anyway, I moved into this little crappy apartment, and I had nothing. I didn't want anything because I didn't want to move it. So she took everything, and it's fine though. It was not an argument. But then I discovered that right behind my apartment complex was a bar that I could walk to that was way too close. And it was probably, I don't know, I lived there a week, and it was like day 5 of ending up in that bar at night, and I'm like, I'm gonna die here. As you look around at the people, and you're like, this is gonna be me, I knew I had to get out.
So you're optimistic by nature.
I was playing Fallout 3 and going to work and then going to this bar. So I got online and did the online dating thing. So I was on Match.com and went on a couple dates. I wasn't interested in I didn't really want to date it. I literally just wanted to get out of the house. So I had a couple dates, and they probably didn't go very well. And then my wife had reached out to me because I was a psychologist. I had kids. I was separated, and she's a psychologist, and she was separated and has a kid too. So she said, "Well, we should at least meet." I'm like, great. So I live in Colorado Springs. I had to drive all the way up to Denver to see her, and anyway, that's how I met her. But
on the first date, were you guys doing psychological tests on each other? Is this person insane? Was there a double psychology study going on?
Buddy, I think this is very true for psychologists, is that the last thing you want to do on your off time is anything related to psychology. So all the TV we were watching is utter garbage. We don't want to think. We don't want to watch anything too stressful. And we get plenty of that at work, And at the time, she was working with some pretty severely mentally ill people. So, we probably don't have the interesting discussion. Now, our kids are screwed because they are junior psychologists. They can talk about feelings and coping in ways that most adults can't. But we'll see. They'll write a book about it when they grow up. But yeah,
That's good.
That's
So
awesome.
my follow-up question to that is pretty much the opposite. What have been some of the most challenging aspects or experiences in your life, and how have they changed? I mean, you talked about your wife, and that's definitely one of them. But have there's anything else that's ever come up in your life that has been extremely hard for you, basically broke you down, but made you stronger in the end, or not?
a couple things. So I think going through a divorce is really hard, especially having kids. I mean, I could go on about that. That was really challenging. Any couple, no matter how well you get along, once you separate, things change, and it's really hard. So that was really challenging. And school was really challenging. I think my wife's aneurysm was probably the most challenging thing I've ever gone through. And then soon after that, my dad died. He had cancer, and he went downhill pretty fast. So that was really difficult.
Was that 2019?
My wife's aneurysm was in 18 in the summer, and then my dad died early in the 18.
Oh my God.
Well, no, he died. He went downhill early in 19, but he died in right day before Father's Day.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
So that was kind of hard. Deployment was challenging and changed me, but it was a good experience in the end. It was so hard to be away from family that long during COVID.
Oh yeah.
I was so scared we were never going to tweet to you that entire time. I was like, no, Earl's gone.
Yeah, it was really interesting because you have no idea what you're in for, and a lot of places don't have Wi-Fi. And the place I went had a spectacular Wi-Fi. I mean, you could stream games, you could do anything, and you know, when you're working, and when you're not, you're not. I mean, you're really there for the mission. So there are times, and then at the end of the day, you're not going home and doing family stuff. Like you eat and then hang out. So I was on podcasts. I did my own podcast. I played Last of Us 1 and 2. I did a lot of that stuff as well. But then there's other times you're working harder than you ever did in your life. I mean, it's just, when you have to work, you have to work. It might be 2 in the morning, it might be 10 at night, and then there's days that have a lot of downtime. So anyway, it was challenging. There were some pretty crazy things that happened over there, but being a psychologist, I got to do some pretty cool things and help people out.
Where were you stationed at?
I can't talk about it, but it was the Middle East. So
Okay, that's cool.
you could
I
imagine.
think I remember
what it
asking you
was
that too on Twitter, and I was like, oops, another bad question.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you get these undisclosed deployments, and then you get there and you learn why it's undisclosed, and it's like the least interesting, sexy reason. It's like, oh, you know, like even if you told somebody, they would be like, oh, you know, it's not that interesting. But I used to do steer psychology, so I did reintegrations and things like that. That was a little more secretive, that job.
What do you mean by reintegrations?
So if it's somebody who is like separated from their unit or held hostage or tortured or something, when they come back, we will help them to reintegrate back into society. There's it's really well done.
Wow.
Really?
And I worked with the Army in San Antonio. So whenever anybody was coming back, I would get briefed on when, where, what was happening. And then if we actually got them, we would help walk them through the reintegration. It's one of the coolest things I've done, real time. Anyway. So I did that.
Are you Army or Air Force?
I'm Air Force, but Air Force has a very robust SEER psychology program. The Army's a little thinner, so we help them a lot. I was the only SEER guy there for a while.
And what are you saying?
So I was
SEER or fear?
SEER. It's survive, evade, resist, escape. So it's a type of psychology that deals with hostage situations and torture and isolation, survival in the woods. So I went and I took the course. There's a course in Washington where you go out and do SEER school, and I had to be one of the students. And it was a really interesting experience. That job was neat. I left that to go do neuropsych. So it was kind of like a little bittersweet because I had one of the jobs everybody wants in the Air Force is to go do some sort of ops site, cool secret squirrel stuff. And I had to choose, do you want to go back to school or do you want to kind of keep doing this world? And ultimately I decided to go back to school. But
you think you make the right choice?
Really, absolutely. Yeah. I was a SEER psych when the Hoffman report came out. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So
No.
the whole thing was, it was about the psychologists that were participating in torture during the Iraq War and Afghanistan, and they had gotten in trouble for developing this program, and it was that they were kind of not psychologists, the whole thing. But anyway, the SEER psychology name had been kind of smeared all over the news, and so it was hard to be that person, and people don't understand what you do. Like, I was not doing any of those things. I was actually there to help people in training, but you get connected as if you're like creating a torture program because of what was on the news at the time. I've always loved school, and to have the opportunity to go back as a, quote, older student and just go learn and read for a while, I couldn't pass that up.
Earl, there's a good question I actually want to ask you. It's on topic, but it's off topic. And this was a question that I actually asked a Nuclear Geek, but I was never gifted in the educational department. I actually taught for 2 years out of college. That was what I did, but I was never talented as far as being a learner. And it was clear from.
Is this what you would tell your students, like the first introduction day?
Guys, listen, I can teach, but I don't know this stuff.
I'm really bad at this.
But my question for you is, so like you said that you didn't do super well in high school, right? As far as grades, but you have a doctorate degree. That's not easy. Part of that is, effort. There's effort involved too, but there's clearly a high level of education that's needed. How do you do that?
I was really weird, super nerdy, introverted kid. I did a lot of learning on my own, kind of like reading books about like biology and the animals, and I had my little microscope set, and I'd make slides and constellation pictures, and just a total geek. And I was really into that. And what I found in school, so I went to, this probably explains a lot, I went to Catholic school because that's where my family went, and it was very rigid, and it didn't really spark my learning in that way, and I felt it was very you're supposed to learn certain things, so I was bored. I was bored in school, and then the older I got in school, the less I kind of cared about it. I didn't do bad, like I never failed anything, but I really didn't apply myself very well. Towards the end of high school, I realized I wanted to go to college. So I went to like a community college and got in. And then that's when things started to turn around because you have a little more flexibility in college to kind of do projects on the things you're really interested in. So I was going to do either. I was thinking about teaching. I was also interested in psychology, and I took courses. I thought the teaching course was, and God bless everybody who's a teacher, but it was just awful. Like, it was so boring and so dumb. And then I took the psychology class. I got the highest grade in the class, and I just loved it. And I thought, well, if you're going to do something, I better do something I'm passionate about. So my grades were good, generally, mostly through undergrad, and good enough to get me into graduate school. And by then I was, like, the more you move up, the more your grades are kind of just,
Gotcha.
you either drop out or you do okay.
Your passions were strong enough to overtake some of the barriers as far as learning. So
yeah, I knew. I always thought I had the ability. I just didn't really get into school again until I hit college and really got a passion for psychology. So
that's kind of the same for me in medicine. My grades in high school, I think I finished out with like maybe a 2.8 or something like that. It's not that I was stupid. I just did not care about school at all. And then I went to community college, and then I realized I was like, medicine's freaking interesting. Like, it's very, like, the stuff that you can do to manipulate the world around you is just fascinating. And I ended up getting a 3.48 final grade, like I just graduated in December, so it's kind of the same thing for me, Stephen. It's all about interest. About interest.
You gotta find something you're passionate about.
That's one of the things when I grew up, I saw a tweet, I think it was today or yesterday. It was like, what did you want to do when you were a kid? What do you do now? And I'm like, dude, I wanted to be an architect, and then I found out I suck at math.
I want to be a pro skater. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't know. But that's so like for me, like that's like one of my biggest passions. Like I mean, this we could talk about this, later on. But I see Tesla getting into architecture at some point.
Tesla homes will be a thing within like.
Oh,
5
I swear,
years.
dude. I swear, because that's one of the biggest problems we have as far as carbon emissions. It comes down to energy used for HVAC, for having the home. So if there's some super hyper efficient way to put homes together, to power them, like that makes a lot. And then someone I was talking to said everything Elon does is ultimately about Mars. When we get to Mars, we're going to need some type of place to live in. Like it has to happen. So it's worth getting that ball going over here on Earth. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen, but I feel like there's a great chance for that.
Even his brother's project, some of his brother's projects are also Mars related as well. I mean, what is it, Square Roots?
Yep.
But they've got a long way to go with Square Roots, in my opinion.
It's cool though. Concept's cool.
It is. It's just, they're still pulling power off the grid.
Yeah.
And
I was actually I don't want to take too much away from Earl here, but I was able to go to one of their facilities in Brooklyn in New York, and I asked the question. It wasn't to Kimball, it was to the other co-founder, and I was like, why don't you guys have solar panels on top of these? And their response was, it's financially not worth it for us. And I was like, oh. So it's I don't know if you've ever seen, you got to check it out, but Kimball Musk, or Elon's brother, has these shipping containers that they grow, they do vertical farming in, and basically one shipping container is equal to like X amount of acres of farming land. So it's you're doing the environment justice because you're not using all of the land, you're using less water, you're not having to use a bunch of pesticides, herbicides, all the other sides that you have to use out there. Nitrates aren't leaching into the ground, so it's really good for the environment. But as far as an energy consumption component, they're in the middle of New York and Brooklyn, and it's like 10 degrees outside, so they're making these things nice and warm. The concept is great, but as far as finding a way to power them, it's like they do use a lot of energy. But worth checking out. And I mean, this is the first level. No one else is doing this. There's a few others, but as far as like this isn't a popular thing at the moment, so you got to start somewhere.
There needs to be a lot of change with our farming practices, I think, across the board. So.
Yeah.
First off, I want to say thank you so much for your service. I mean, that's like amazing, commendable. Like you're like so inspiring. Like you went to Air Force and and I assume you got your degree while you're serving too, right?
No, I did the smart thing where I got my degree before I came in, paid for the whole thing with loans, and then came in.
You're on the hook for those.
If you can do the 10 years of payments, you can get it forgiven in the military. So I'm there. I submitted my paperwork, but I work with a lot of people who came in much smarter than I did. But it's okay. I'm glad I came in a little later though, because I think I appreciate things a little differently.
You got your degree, and then you did it, and then you went to the military, and you went to Air Force. Why did you do that? Because you probably could have been more lucrative.
I did an internship with the Air Force, so that's how I got. You do your internship, and then you owe them a little bit of time. So I was just going to get right out. I had no interest. I'm not a military person, but then I fell in love with it. I've loved every assignment, so I'm still here. I'm going to finish 20 now. It's been a great opportunity, but was not the plan going in. But it's weird, people always, so whenever I go to the grocery store or something after work and I'm in my uniform, people come up to you and they're like, thanks for your service. And I feel lucky. Like, I feel like I have a great job and I enjoy working with active duty, but also the veterans. We have a lot of elderly population around here, so I'm working with them, diagnosing dementia and things like that. And it's just great to hear, these people coming in who are in Vietnam and they want to tell you their and what they did, and it's pretty cool.
What do you mostly focus on this current, what do you call it, deployment, or like your current job, like what you're doing right now? What do you mostly cover now?
So you'd say your assignment. So I'm the director of neuropsychology, so I'm in charge of neuropsych assessments for 8 states. So anybody who needs one for temporary duty status or in the local area. Typically, I get referrals for the elderly population, so all your dementias. TBIs for active duty people.
What is that?
We have a traumatic brain injury. Oh, and please stop me. One of the things when I joined the military is everybody talks to you in acronyms. And I'm like, I swear I will never be that person. And then within like 6 months, you're that
It's
person.
quick.
Like I talked to my wife, and she's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Because there's some acronyms you don't even know what they mean. No one even explains. You don't even know what it stands for. So I don't know how to explain it to someone else. But anyway, traumatic brain injury. So the most common way is a car accident or something. Somebody will have that. They'll need to come in and get evaluated, so I'll do that. I work closely with neurology, so they get some different disorders like Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis, or some really obscure disorders. So they'll send them up to me. It is a training base. I teach residents how to do assessments. So we have a wide variety of things that we're using so that I can teach them, but also try to get a good mix of cases for people. The other issue is attention and concentration problems that people come in with, which could be from a variety of reasons. And I usually have a stack of referrals. I'm way too busy to really see everybody. I can't see everybody, especially with teaching people on the side. So I try to just pick the ones that are most pertinent. The guy who just got a head injury, I'll get him right in.
What do you feel that neuropsychology is currently lacking in? Like, is there any area that you think neuropsychology could be doing better at?
The area neuropsychology is really lacking in is probably culture, diversity, and the proper norm tables for a variety of people. We really don't have a lot of neuropsychologists who are not like me, who are just like white men. If you ever go to a neuropsych conference, it's like all white men. We don't have many that don't speak, who speak more than one language. A lot of our assessments are in English, and a lot of our older assessments were normed on, a few white guys back in the day. So the field has a long way to go in that area. But where it really continues to shine, and this is pretty interesting, the technology for brain scans is exploding, just like EVs and tech and computers, right? So we have all this high-powered tech of how we can look at the brain in these very interesting, unique ways. But we don't understand what it means. We really still haven't been able to take that picture and say, this is how it will affect you. And that's where neuropsychology comes in. So our measurements are much more sensitive for people who are developing a problem. Like, we can pick up Alzheimer's way before an imaging will pick up Alzheimer's. Or somebody can come in and have, pretty significant damage to their brain, but actually function pretty good. Or they can have the most minute damage and have catastrophic failure in some areas. That you can't really read off of even the best imaging in the world. We still can't use this yet in a way that's really functional. We can use it for research in different ways. Like, it's really good for really seeing the microscopic damage from a TBI, and when you really finally heal, we can see that. But as far as, okay, that's fine. I think it's a difference between, is the car working? Is it together and functional? Or is it broken? This one has a flat tire, so it probably will function this way. But the neuropsychologist is driving the car. We're going to try out the brain and see if your memory really is impaired or your processing speed. And so it continues to be a really valuable resource, especially in, if you think about things like, you're going to take a pilot and put him behind, have him fly a multi-million-dollar plane.
Yeah.
You don't want him to just be okay. You don't want him to be thumbs up okay. You want him to be arrogant, cocky, and super okay. You want him to be amazing. And so, again, a brain scan isn't going to tell you any of that. But if you sit them down and they're knocking these processing speed tests out of the park, even though they had a car accident, this guy can go back and fly again. They're all going to come in and tell you they can fly again, but until you really test them and you can see where their deficits are. So there's a real value, a good money value in that as well, to make sure that people at all levels are okay. You want your flight crew guy to be on the top of his game when he adjusts everything on that jet. So we get a lot of referrals for things like that.
That's interesting. I like the I like the analogy you said of the tire might, if the car has a flat tire and might drive in this way. It kind of reminded me of one of the patients we had at MD Anderson. This guy came in with breast cancer, and it metastasized and went to his brain, but it went right to his hypothalamus.
Oh, wow.
Skipped everything else and hit right on his hypothalamus. And I'm sure you know that's responsible for the 4 Fs, right? And he claimed that he was never gay before ever. But after that, after it metastasized and started growing and started pressing down on the hypothalamus, he said that he was gay. Is that not the weirdest thing you have ever heard?
I'll tell you what, one of the very humbling experiences in doing neuropsych is just seeing how people's brains can break down. And that it's almost amazing that it works. You know, we really take it for granted.
Right.
And you really wonder, well, what is your personality, right? Because you see people with like a frontotemporal dementia where the person's personality changes. So, like, I saw this woman who was a very conservative, Catholic, elderly, super sweet woman who had frontotemporal and was now trying to, like, make margaritas in church, you know? She, like, was not thinking straight anymore, and she couldn't, like, stop talking. And I met with her husband, and he was really upset, and he said, this woman was just like the sweetest, nicest person, and you know, now she's like violent with him in the waiting room. So, you know, all of that, if you look at her brain scan, was this regressive neurological disorder, which has completely changed her behavior and her personality. And you know, or I see a lot of people recovering from strokes, and you see the damage and things that may or may not ever come back. It is kind of humbling, or even testing people and seeing that their IQ is probably super high at one point, and now they're, you know, in the midst of Alzheimer's or Lewy body dementia, where you have hallucinations, and you know, and you read their history of what they were like, and it's tough. You know, it's really hard to see that. I do hope that I hope we can find the causes and be able to find some cures for some of these things someday. I think we have a lot to learn.
Well, Alzheimer's, they've had some pretty decent, hopeful breakthroughs recently at Pennington down here in Baton Rouge, where they've kind of like narrowed down Alzheimer's to be type 3 diabetes. That's what they're thinking. That's the current hypothesis. Have you read anything on that?
I'll tell you what, the most recent things I was reading about was the attacks on the reticular activating system, and also sleep being a predictor of Alzheimer's down the road. And I know the doc was talking about how without getting good restful sleep over time, those neurofibrillary plaques and tangles may be secondary to the brain never being able to recover at night.
Really?
And they were wondering how sleep, it was really fascinating. I'll tell you what, I've never seen a smart, like, I don't know, I'm probably not that smart, but the guy was just ridiculously, he was so far ahead of me. Like, he would go through one slide that was something you barely understood, then he would go to the next one that was built on the last one, like, well, if you understand this, then you understand that. So he's like 4 slides down, and you're like, I'm back on slide 1 trying to like, figure out these neural pathways that he knows like the back of his shirt, but back of his hand. But I thought the sleep stuff was really fascinating way to look at this. Now, the bad news was, so he was saying that that's why we're struggling with some of the interventions we're doing, is because we're trying to treat the plaques and tangles, but really it may predate all of that, where it's more of this like disruptive sleep. But if Alzheimer's attacks that area first, then it's not like you can do sleep hygiene to fix that. Like, you can't tell grandpa to go to sleep, because it's like biologically his sleep system is broken. So I'm not sure what you do with that, because knocking people out, they still don't get that restful sleep, right? So right. I don't know. It was anyway. That was kind of new to me. I have not really read the literature on the type 3 diabetes part.
Are you familiar with DAT scan for Parkinson's diagnosis?
Yeah. Yep.
IO flu pain. Yeah, that I do that. I'm a nuclear medicine technologist in a former life.
Oh, wow.
So I used to do those studies. It's funny because that's the only radioactive drug that is regulated like cocaine. It's a Schedule 3 whatever narcotic.
Wow.
And we had to go. It was like hardcore, and it's like 1,000th of the potency of actual dose of cocaine. Like you would have to consume 1,000 doses, and it still wouldn't even close to get you high. And but it was a radioactive material, and it would show up basically as like a normal person would show up as two imaged commas. They look like punctuation, like commas. But if one of them were missing the tail of the comma, or both of them, then that could indicate Lewy body disease or Parkinson's syndrome potentially.
Interesting.
Oh wow.
I saw on your what is it called, LinkedIn, that you chose osteopathic school rather than allopathic. Am I right on that?
Yeah.
And also, like, how does that change the way you assess people? Because like osteopathic and allopathic for medicine, right, is like completely different the way they go about figuring out and how to diagnose the body. How does that change in psychology?
Our program was housed in the med school. So they happen to be, DOs, DO program. But our like PsyD program is its own little animal. It did help me because we did a lot of health psychology stuff, and we spent a lot of time with the docs. So they were our guinea pigs for neuro assessment, and then we were their guinea pigs for whatever they're doing. And I had a lot of respect for the osteopaths because I liked the way they kind of think about things. And honestly, my favorite doctors I've ever worked with or had as a doctor tended to be osteopaths, probably just random, but I found them to be great people. As far as what they do and kind of the manipulation side and all that stuff, I don't, that's not in my lane. And like I said, we kind of had our own program. The only cool thing I got out of it is so I'm a PsyD, so I'm a psychology doctorate. So we're like the stepchildren of PhDs, and DOs feel a little bit secondary to MDs, right?
Yeah.
So we got the same degree that they have, and it's like the most monstrous, like poster-sized degree that I have in my office. It's like bigger than anybody else that I work with. It's like, and I was embarrassed by it, because it's clearly screaming out for like, take me seriously. I could just. My wife is a PhD psychologist, so she went to like a really good school and everything. She always gives me crap about like these PsyDs and everything, but anyway, I definitely have the I'm incompetent size degree in my office, but I kept it. I framed it to make it a little bigger, and it's wonderful.
What public company is going to change the world in neuropsychology? Where's the money at, Earl? Besides Neuralink, of course,
Yeah, I think AI is going to take my job and everybody else's job. So a lot of what I'm doing is
C3.ai? Are you saying C3.ai?
I'm taking data and putting it together and coming up with a diagnosis and treatment plan. And that's absolutely something that AI.
Are you familiar with the Rothman Index?
No.
It was like that. It's like artificial intelligence takes all these data points and then backtraces them to try to figure out what causes disease. And they are one of the huge contributors to trying to figure out Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, but through all these little tiny indicators. They have I believe they have access to more medical records than any other private company. It's pretty crazy.
Fascinating. I think my field will be upended by AI eventually. That we'll be able to do a better job. Like I have a TVI. I sit down with the AI and just basically do all the computer tests. And then it runs the data and will give me a better answer.
What's the company? Give me a strike and expiration and a ticker.
I don't know. I only know Tesla. I know Tesla and then whatever Kathy Wood says.
Speaking of Tesla, you're kind of a huge deal on Twitter, right? 17,000 followers. How did this all start?
Yeah. 17.2 thousand.
Sorry.
That's fine. I mean, those couple hundred
happens all the time.
This is probably like you know what it's like? It's like when you go to Vegas and you hit the jackpot early on, and then those people never stop going to Vegas. So, I only joined to follow Elon, and my Twitter handle was thought up in a minute, and I just I didn't
Oh,
expect.
what does that
to use
mean? Yeah, I've always wondered. What does 28 Days
I
Later
love
mean?
I love that movie. I love 28 Days Later. I love zombie movies. They're my favorite. There's a book called what is it? Dreams of Undead Sheep or something. It's a neuro book, but it's great, and it's written as if you're doing brain science on zombies, and it describes all the parts of the brain, and I love it. But anyway, I love zombie movies, and Shaun of the Dead is my favorite. But I love 28 Days Later. But I was waiting for my Model 3, right? So, Tesla at that time was notorious for delays. So I stuck delays, figured 28 delays. They'll probably be delayed at least that many times before I get the car. Thought about it for a minute and then joined Twitter, just following Elon. And then I got my car, and then I did a fast forward video of it pulling into my garage and shutting the garage door. And then Elon tweeted it out, and then Tesla tweeted it out. And I had like 19 followers for a long time. And then suddenly people are following me, and I thought that was really cool that Elon had did that. But then I was introduced to these Tesla Q goons who started saying that the video was doctored because my dog runs backwards in the video. And I was shocked. First of all, I'm a person who breaks every computer. I can't the idea that I can make a mock-up video of my car parking in, it was just so insane to me. And but when you watch it, because it's in fast forward, it does look like my dog at one point runs backwards. So it was just, it's like that frame, like it's just the frame. He happened. Yeah. It's Wilson. Wilson started all this. And so I start arguing with them because I'm new, right? And I'm like, who are you? What is this? I'm arguing with them, and then they're telling me I'm like a shill for Elon and all these things. And I'm like new to Twitter, and I have like no followers. But it was a great experience. But then I got a bunch of followers out. Right now I'm hooked. Like I got followers. Elon's tweeted my account. I just started it in, I don't know, it was like May, and like June he tweeted me or something. Like I got to follow this up. What am I going to do? So that's when I put Norman in the car driving around with that little clip, and that took off. So then I was hooked. Like that was when my wife had her aneurysm in July. So I was sitting in the hospital all the time, at all hours. I had to stay up watching them. I didn't have to, but I stayed up all night watching the machine. And here, this is when my Twitter life shifted. So I got a question. You know those Amazon things, like you buy things and they're like, "Hey, there's a question about this product."
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was, I don't know, 3 a.m, and it popped up on my phone, and I bought those little, like, what are they? The little air things for the little Tesla T for the tires, little air caps that go on there.
Okay.
And somebody asked a question about them, and I saw it, and I'm like, oh, I'll answer that, right? So I start. It's probably still on Amazon somewhere. I end up having this whole conversation with this guy about these stupid things, and it kind of dawned on me that the people, like my family, was asleep at night. Like everybody's asleep, and there's only so much. Like people get exhausted with your stuff. There's only so much support you can get. But Twitter is awake all the time. It's awake all the time. So I started getting into the DMs, and I got invited to a Twitter, a Tesla chat. And there were several people I still keep in contact with there that I'm like, I'm new here. I'm just dumping all this stuff. Like, hey, I'm in the hospital right now. Here's what's going on. And I got all this support from people just saying, like, being really helpful. And it was in those moments where I wanted more, because now I'm like already sick of Tesla Q, and I wanted more positive things on Twitter because I wanted it to be positive for me. So I thought, how can I incorporate dogs? I love dogs. And then I came up in the hospital. I came up with the Frunk puppy name. I was playing with it in my mind, like what words go together. I need Frunk, and it has to be dogs, and like Frunk dogs. And I came up with Frunk puppy. And then it stuck, and then all I would do at night, I would just like harass people to do this. Like, you need to put your dog in the trunk. Like, I was militant about it. And then people started doing it, but it wasn't until Trevor from Model 3 Owners, he put his cat, Nutmeg, in the frunk. And then, because he has a huge audience, as soon as he did it, so a cat really started this. It just blew up. Yeah, it's like a scandal, like, right?
It is a scandal.
It blew up because and everybody started doing this. So I'm in the hospital, my wife's recovering, and at night I'm watching people, like, literally all over the world put their stupid dog in the front. What? Like,
I did that with my lab when I first bought my car, and I posted it to you. And one of the first things I did with my Tesla was I had to take a picture of my dog in the car. And then when I got my Model X, was the same thing. I got to make sure and take a picture of my dog.
My favorite picture all time, and it's not even really of a dog. It's somebody who took a picture of somebody else at a Tesla showroom. And this woman is taking a picture of her dog in the front. And then somebody took a picture of that. And I never thought, like, whoever took that picture, I don't know who it was, and I never recognized that dog. Like, I don't even think it made it to Twitter. It just had blown up to the point where it was, like, the weirdest thing.
You had Mae Musk take a picture of her dog, too, in the front, didn't she?
Yeah, right. And then that's when it went really crazy, because she took it. And then when China started to get the Model 3, it really blew up again, because for whatever reason, I don't know why, like, there's all these dogs in, like, China and where is it? South Korea, I think. Taiwan, I don't remember. Anyway, there's like a bunch of these countries, and it was really a thing over there, which just made it snowball even more. So
that's insane.
And then it got too big, so I brought people in to try to help me sort through the. There were weeks where we were getting like 60 or 70 pictures in a week. And like, I couldn't find them all, and then I was like picking them, and then people would yell at me because I picked the wrong pictures, and like, so I thought, well, I want to do this democratically. I don't want to do it like, let other people pick the top 4, and then the community can pick the winner. Anyway, so
there's an actual board you guys meet, right?
Yeah, we really do. There's like an actual Frunk puppy board. We've cycled through members over the years, but there's been a pretty solid contingent of people who've literally been doing this week in and week out, finding the pictures. Like, they have like a software or something where they find them, and then they put them in the Google thing and set up a voting thing.
How do you
everybody makes fun of me in there, you know.
That's crazy.
How do you sign up to be a part of that? Like, is it like you have to know somebody to get in, or what's the deal with that?
Well, every once in a while, I will put out a call, and I'll just say, who wants to be in the board? And then a couple people will DM me, and we try to pick, you know, somebody who we know is, like, we like people who tweet a lot, who are around a lot, because sometimes if they're not around, they're not going to vote.
Yeah.
And then who like dogs, and then people who are into Tesla. So there's a pretty good community, but there's been times when it's gotten so big, there's like too many people in the group, so kind of it fleshes itself out. So some people just move on.
What's one of the most wild animals I mean, I guess it's not a Frunk puppy, but one of the most wild animals that has ever been a Frunk puppy?
Oh, definitely the calf. There was
a calf,
and I forget the name.
Like
there was
a little baby cow.
No, like a cow.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Wait, what?
I don't know why we all went hard of hearing on that one for a little while. Cow, like a calf, and a calf.
It's a great story because I'll think of the name as soon as we hang up. But so I asked him, I'm like, how did you do this? And he was telling me that. So he owns a farm, and there was this calf that was born recently, but you got to get the calf away from the mother. And then, you know, you can't like, drive your car up. There's a whole thing. So he had to like sneak the calf away from the mom, pick it up, and then he put it in the frunk, and then the thing like peed all over the frunk, and that's a picture of this calf. And he didn't know if it would hold the. I mean, it's heavy. He didn't know if the frunk would like collapse. But,
if it kick and scratch the car, and you know.
Have you ever sat in your frunk before?
Yeah, I've sat in it.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not as big as a cow. I don't know what you're saying, but
hey, I'm like just under 200, and I have been able to sit in the frunk. Like when I saw what the frunk looks like when you take out the tub, it kind of occurred to me. I was like, that was a horrible idea because there was a lot of stuff under there that if that gets moved a little bit, probably not a good idea. But I've sat in there, there's times where you're just waiting. You're like, oh, this is kind of a cool spot to sit in.
Yeah, I sit there whenever we were chilling, open up the frunk, sit there. But have you ever sat in the back of a 7-seater Model S?
That's the question.
I've got a picture of me on Twitter somewhere where I'm sitting in the back of one going,
And the Model Y?
No, the Model S. The Model S. My local service center, they have the rear seating Model S where you're sitting in the jump seats in the back.
Really? I didn't even know that was a thing.
I didn't either until I got it one day when I brought my Model X in to get the auto. Because when I first bought my Model X, I didn't know the doors are supposed to open automatically. I had no idea, and then it just wasn't doing it. And when I saw it on Twitter or something, I was like, "Well, that sounds cool," and it wasn't working. And so my module was burnt out or something. They had to replace it, and when they gave me the 7-seater Model S.
Are you kind of close with Lex Friedman, or because I saw that he was like, I want to come to your house and I want to do a podcast with you or something.
Yeah, I always follow his stuff, and every once in a while he'll like my things, and I always get pretty giddy. I have a lot of respect for him. I think he's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, he's insane.
I always joke around, and I forget he was talking about his tour, and I said, well, you got to stop by Ohio. And I was pretty shocked that he said that. And he's like, oh, yeah. And I think he's the kind of person that would. And then he'd remarked that he liked my tweets or something. So clearly he's seen my stuff.
Yeah.
And, but cool. I never talked to him. I never talked to him or anything. But I would love to. I would love one of the people I'd really like to meet. I think he's super interesting.
Would you rather have 10 minutes with Lex Friedman or with Elon Musk? Not in a table setting.
Well, I think I've watched a lot of the podcasts that Lex does, and I think I would probably have a unproductive conversation with him because I do neuropsych. Right. I think I have to be honest myself that if I was sitting with Elon, I don't know how these third row people do it. I think I would just be a mess. I don't know. I would be totally first.
What would you just be frozen or what?
I don't know. I mean, I would like to think that I would really step up to the task and be super cool, but I don't know. Whenever he likes my tweets or tweets, like I get really giddy.
I've got one Elon like my whole life. So then that one time I was like, and it was a picture of Johnny Cash high as fuck eating cake in a bush. That's my Elon like.
Well, you know those like these like people who walk around with guns all the time, and they always think they're going to shoot somebody if the shit hits the fan. But whenever they do studies, like even cops miss at close range because we just shit our pants. Like it's really hard to do. And one time I worked in this rehab for a while, and I took the CPR course the day before. And the day after, I was sitting at a table, and the woman next to me started choking. So I got up and I ran and I found help. I just had the training. Like I just had she was choking, and I ran and I got somebody to help her.
Hold on a second. There's a big difference between CPR training and the Heimlich maneuver.
I mean, there is. They do that.
That was training. Like I just had it, and but that really taught me something about myself. Like I really think, in my mind, I would sit down and have this cool, like very cognitive, like say smart things, long conversations, and it probably wouldn't come out.
I want to know, like, you started your Twitter. It sounds like kind of after you maybe got a Tesla, but why the hell did you get a Tesla in the first place? What was the first thing how did you get it?
Why did I get a Tesla? I was one of those people who, as a Prius driver, I wanted to drive a sustainable thing, and I just started to see stories about the Model S, reading about the Model S, and thought it looked really cool, and started to learn about Elon's story a little bit. And then when they said they're going to make something that I could afford, you start to get excited, like, oh, maybe I don't need to put any gas in the car. Maybe I can get an electric car. Maybe it doesn't have to be a lease. Maybe it doesn't need to be something like a compromise. Maybe I actually like this thing. So I put the money down. I really didn't think I would get it. I didn't even tell my wife. I put the money down, and but more and more after that, the long time in between, I started to really get into this idea until I finally broke it for her that I wanted to get a Tesla. So she said no. I kept working on her, and eventually she got worn down and said, fine, you can get your effing Tesla. Black. I'm like, okay, I ordered black on the spot.
So did you own Tesla shares before getting your Tesla or after?
I did, yeah. I got my Tesla shares, and I think it was 15 or maybe early 16.
2015 or 2016?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I bought a really nice chunk and tried to keep adding to it. But I had no idea what was coming, and then in the last
year.
Right. I saw you
Literally
posting
the
you hit your
last
retirement
year.
goal, so congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, I really did the dumb thing. So I got into calls. A Tesla was at about $700 a pre-split, and I learned about them. Somebody reached out to me and said, "Give this," because I did exactly what you shouldn't do. So somebody reached out and said, "Have you ever done calls?" And I said, "No."
Was this Jeremy Judkins or no?
No. And so I sold my shares and I bought all the calls. Right? I'm like, well, okay, let's do this.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't a lot of money, but it wasn't a huge. I mean, it wasn't a huge amount of money. But then I had no idea what I was doing. So that was the time when the stock just kept going up by like $100 at a time. So
when was this? Was this after pandemic or pre-pandemic?
This was in April.
Yeah, so
Okay,
after.
so after
After,
pandemic.
wow.
I think it was April. I might be wrong, but I think it definitely wasn't January.
Was it after Elon's notorious "that stock is too high" tweet?
You might have crushed me on that tweet. I can't remember. But anyway, I had no idea what I was doing, and it seemed like free money. So I just kept selling the calls and buying ones that were more crazy. So you'd have one, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to sell that and buy one up another $100. And I think nowadays I wouldn't do that.
It's a lot harder today than it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I, it skyrocketed. And, I would tell my wife and she didn't care. She'd be like, it's monopoly money, So that's why I bought her. I got the Model X. I'm like, yeah, well, that's not.
That monopoly money just got you a real car.
Mine didn't care either until the day I bought her a Louis Vuitton purse. And then she was like, you just keep going doing that. I was like, that's great. Now she's asking for another one. I'm like, oh.
I've tried to be, luckily somebody talked some sense into me when it was right around 500, another Twitter friend. I finally disclosed to him what I'd been doing. And he's like, you need to get back in your shares, So I did.
Yeah.
Bought a bunch of shares. And boy, that was good timing because then it crashed to like 330 and I would have gotten my face ripped off. So it was much less painful to do that with shares instead of calls.
Were you aware? I mean, this is something that I honestly did not know. Were you aware that Tesla really was single? I can't remember the exact way Elon put it, but it was single-digit weeks away from running out of cash. I think that's how he put it. I can't remember. But were you? I had no idea at that time that the company was that close to that.
Take on that. I think Elon likes to be a little dramatic in his presentations, and I really
No.
It's fair.
in that moment that if they were they really going to claim bankruptcy? Like, was it really over, or was it just going to be uncomfortable, or were they going to need to get money from somebody? Because the money wasn't going to run out. Like, I don't believe, there's always.
Well, he tried to call.
Too big.
What's his name? Tim Apple. Right?
Tim Apple.
Yeah, he tried to call Tim Cook, and apparently Tim Cook would even take the call, but yet he takes the call to Hyundai he takes it to Hyundai.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, I'm kind of curious how that whole thing went, but that was a big win for the Tesla Bears because they're like, oh, see, we were almost right.
Dude, I never. I remember buying down at 180 pre-split. I remember being like, wow, I guess this sucks. I'll just buy down till there's literally nothing left.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite thing, and maybe you can talk about this, not sure, but what is your favorite thing about FSD beta?
I'm trying to think about. I mean, I'll be honest with you.
It's the elitism. Come on.
When I first
because you're better than everyone else. You can just say it.
When I first got it, it was terrifying. I mean, it was because it's like if you think about the worst things about autopilot, right? Like whenever it does something crazy and you're like, holy shit, that was FSD beta with no rules. Like it could drive anywhere it wanted to at any moment, and you had no idea why. So you're just driving along, and it's exactly what the instructions say. Like, hey, this thing might go crazy. And it did go crazy. So it would just steer it like, veer. So the first day I drove it, it was raining and it was at night because I had just gotten it in the morning.
That's brave.
I did everything what all the other beta testers said don't do, right? Like, so it's raining, I can't see anything. And the car is just entertaining itself. It is scaring the shit out of me. I'm losing years of my life.
They're watching you through the camera.
Yeah, it was scary, but you do, because you do get a little complacent. Like I think if you use autopilot all the time, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So that's where I was coming from, was that mode, and then you sit in this thing and you're like, oh my god, yeah, this is like really unsettling. So there was that phase. But then within a couple updates, now it's totally usable. I mean, the thing drives me back and forth to work. You know what it can do, and you know where it might struggle sometimes.
It's like autopilot. You know where to hold the steering wheel for sure.
Yeah. Yes, and even things like that. Like, so you're used to how much the steering wheel turns, but when it makes like a left turn, it turns. This sounds stupid, but you know what I mean. Like the steering wheel turns a lot, and if you grip it slightly too much, you're gonna turn
disengage.
It off. Yeah. It's at this point now where I end up screwing up more than the car. Like it does things, and I'm like, oh.
It would have been fine if you let it kind of do it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I just let it go. So I've been just trying to let it go, and like you just have to get used to the way it drives. And it's not doing any of those things where I've been like my heart rate's up and it's doing something really crazy anymore. It's pretty solid. But I think I told a story on Twitter the other day, but my car was trying to make a left turn to get out of the lane. Mm-hmm. And I'm fighting with it. Like, I have to turn it off, and I'm fighting with it. And then eventually I'm like, I cursed, and I took over. And I turned, because I thought it had to go right. And I turned down a wrong way. Like, I went down the car was right. The car was trying to sit. Like, it's like, you stupid idiot. You're going to kill us all.
I do that in Cincinnati all the time. There's an interstate exit that doesn't make sense to me, and the Tesla wants to keep going straight. I'm like, no, it's this freaking way. And then as soon as I take the exit, I'm like, oh no, I'm supposed to go that way. Now it's like 20 minutes. I got to turn around.
What was it?
I'm going down my street, and I have to turn the car around. And but anyway, I've been having more experiences like that where the car is making some pretty good calls. I don't know. A lot of the beta testers see this as being a while until it's wide release. I really feel like all it needs to get to is like Elon's comfort level. And when he released autopilot, when he released nav on autopilot, that was not polished.
No.
I made mistakes all the time. And then the ping ponging, oh my god, I would have ripped my hair out through the ping ponging. That was terrible.
What was ping ponging? Because I don't have a Tesla.
It used to ping pong the lane, and for a while it was fine, and then for all of a sudden in one update it was like driving drunk. It was just ping ponging the lane. And when I drive from Indy to Cincinnati, I drive from Cincinnati to Indy and back all the time, and it was like nauseous. I couldn't use autopilot for a long time, but I try to make that trip, and I can, if I do it I leave here with 100%, I can get all the way home with 5% left. As long as the temperature is above 28 degrees. If it's below 28 or so, I have to stop in Indy and charge.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that charger's like broken half the time.
It's very smooth now. Like the turns it takes, it used to be like very like jittery, and it's fairly smooth most of the time. The way it makes the turns. If there's anything that they could probably fix very easily, is that it continues to be too timid. Like it just needs to go.
Needs to get some confidence.
It creeps out. It can make the left turn, and then it's like, okay, I'm going to be real cautious here, but you're on the road, dude. Most of my interventions aren't usually steering related. They're usually hitting the accelerator. That you made the right choice. Just commit, and it would have been fine. And I assume that's probably on purpose that they've made it extra cautious. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's an easy fix. But overall, like I said, at this point for me, it is a stress reliever. It really
Really?
drives me
FSD
most
beta is
of
a
the
stress
way.
reliever?
That's amazing.
Would you say
It's a stress reliever.
the
Yeah, he
beta,
said-
not autopilot, but actually the beta at this point, you would say is a stress reliever?
I enjoy
Wow.
using it. And
When you're
feel
driving with FSD beta, can you choose just autopilot if you want, or navigate on autopilot if you want?
turn it off. Yeah, you can turn it off, but you have to go into the menu and
You have to
turn
go
it
in the
off.
menu.
Okay, yeah.
Raphael from Tesla Tino, he told me that if you turn off navigate on autopilot, that will kill the entire, not kill, but kill the FSD beta aspect of it. It'll turn it into just autopilot.
I haven't tried it. I just leave it on all the time.
Did they just give it
There's
to you
a
on the
lot,
Model
so
3 or both cars?
Well, they asked me which one I wanted, and I picked the 3 because I use it more, but also I just figured it was less mass to like correct. It messes up, and then it's easier to film too. Like the screen is really big, and then on the X is kind of tiny. So
I didn't pay for FSD on my X yet. I didn't do it.
I wasn't gonna, but of course then I did.
Yeah, all of a sudden, I almost did. I'm kind of kicking myself now because it's gotten so much more expensive since when I bought my X. But
Based on your observations, how far do you think before we're at L5 robotaxi levels?
I think that given the learning curve, and I think it'll be wide release. I think Q1 it'll be wide release.
Really?
Everybody.
Q1?
Wow. End of Q1.
That's bold, man.
You're wrong.
That's awesome.
I
Like
think
voluntarily
out.
released, or like he's just gonna roll it out, or a sign up.
Yeah, I think everybody gets it. Everybody who has FSD beta or FSD.
Hey, did you see that today the NHSTA or whatever approved rules that are less lenient on or more lenient for autonomous vehicles than the cars en masse? So I don't know what all the rules are, but there's something that came out.
Get it out. I think if they get it out and they're collecting even more data from people, I think by the end of the year, I think Elon's goal this time is going to be right. I think they'll be able to release it maybe in a market or two. Now, the only thing I don't know about is a lot of those edge cases. There's some people that say, like, the camera can't see far enough out of the left pillar or the radar doesn't go far enough. So if there's a car coming really fast and you have to make a left turn, they're saying the physics might not work, that it might not see that. But I don't know that. That's not my lane.
It's building a mental picture, and if you saw it from way back, then as it progresses, it keeps it in memory. I would think. I know we're getting close on time.
Yeah.
I want to know. We haven't spent enough time bashing Teslac. So I want to know, what's the worst thing they did to you? I think I remember something about them trying to get you fired or something from your job. I don't know, but what's the worst thing they've done to you?
Yeah. Probably, Aaron Greenspan. For whatever reason, I never interacted with him. He's one of those people that watch him for a few minutes. This is like a litigious guy you don't mess with. So I never really got into it with him. But for whatever reason, he started attacking me and my account. And he was saying that I didn't have a license to practice psychology.
I remember that.
Saying that.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
That was nuts.
That's nuts.
And then, like, my business partner for Frunk Puppy, worked for a bank, and then that was a problem because Tesla was going to use that bank it was really crazy. And then because I was in the Air Force, I can't talk about SpaceX because of, competition, like I'm the guy doing acquisitions or something.
That's insane.
Really going down the rabbit hole.
They went down, I was just about to say, they went down way too many rabbit holes. It didn't.
But his big thing was that I was making fun, I was celebrating the mocking of the disabled, which is because there was an account that followed me that made fun of his brother, but I didn't follow the account or like the tweet, and I still don't know what the tweet was. I never saw it because I don't follow the account. And even when this was pointed out to him, he said I need to screen everyone who follows me to make sure that they
what?
How many thousands of people? That's crazy. So
this is insane. Every time I see something from Tesla Q, I automatically think it's comedy because it's so out of reality. It's is this comedy? And then somebody was like,
what's that girl that posts Jazzy? That's a parody, right?
Jazzy Q.
It's a parody, right?
Yeah, something like that.
I haven't watched.
It's too much to be real, so it has to be.
Yeah.
But
But anyway, quick question. What is next for Earl?
Well, I am soon. This is breaking news. I'm redoing my website. So what I'm trying to do is to instead of having the voting on Twitter, you have that one little thumbnail picture that's kind of crappy. You can't really see. Some of the pictures are absolutely beautiful, but they don't vote very well because the dog is like 50 miles away. But the actual picture is gorgeous. So what I want to do is to have the Frunk Puppy website be like a real, clearinghouse for all these photos, so that you can see who won each week, who is in the top, top 20, and who is in the top 4. And then when you go to vote, you'll have like a big picture to look at to actually vote who the winner is. So that's hopefully coming soon. And I want to redo the store. I have a new T-shirt coming and things like that. So I want to kind of. It's been a long time. I haven't really done anything with it. So
did you do a best of 2020? Like I know you do like weekly competitions, but was there an overall 2020 winner?
I don't know if anybody remembers this, but I did a March Frunking Madness the one year, and it was. Did anybody? I don't know if you saw, but I had 64 dogs compete in like a giant.
Oh, that's great.
Twitter polls, and it came down to like I forget even who won it. I think it came down to May Musk's dog and somebody else. It was a frunk full of puppies from the HSPCA.
Wow!
But I would love to do a style like that again on the website where there's actual brackets, and then I can get, because the Twitter community is great, like the Tesla community. If you ask anybody to sponsor,
I'll donate a 3D printed trophy or something if you did something.
Well, but sent in by anonymous,
So,
but I think I would love to do something like that again. But then have the layout better, because Twitter's just. Twitter's unfriendly, so I'm hoping to just link to the voting. Hopefully enough people will click over to do that. I'm hoping to get that rolling.
That sounds like a great idea. So this is our last question. It's normally our biggest question. Is there any question or topic that we didn't bring up that we should have throughout this podcast? And what was it? Maybe I can rephrase it and make it a little bit easier. It is something.
I did the same
difficult.
thing when he asked me last time.
You can keep the question. It's a good question. Earl's firing on all cylinders.
You got to think about it for a second.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, the first thing that pops into my mind, honestly, is the future of Tesla. There's so many things coming this year between Berlin, Austin, semi-truck. Cybertruck, the
Buffalo Giga,
the Platinum Roadster. There's just so many things right now that bursting at the seams. I know Tesla stock is at an all-time high, and it's totally crazy right now. But I just feel like there's so much good news coming that even just like last year, even the really bullish people are probably still missing this story of how it's going to continue to exponentially grow.
I actually convinced my dad to buy a bunch of shares, and he was like, it's getting kind of high. I might sell it. I'm like, no. It's not just a car company.
Begat new all-time highs.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that ARK is coming out with a space exploration ETF, ARKX or something like that?
I saw that.
Is it SpaceX or is it space?
It's
company?
not yet. When SpaceX is public, they'll purchase into it, but it's just a specific space exploration ETF.
I wouldn't even buy into an ETF.
Dude, I have over 100% gain on my ARKK, so I'm gonna buy any ETFs they come out with.
You would buy that over straight up SpaceX stock?
No, not necessarily, but okay. I buy some of the portfolio, but I still buy the ETF to hit exposure to the industry.
I would buy the ETF as well. Earl, are there any social media accounts or websites that you would like to promote while you're on here?
Yeah, so my website is frunkpuppy.com, of course. Pretty much search anything Frunk Puppy, though. There's YouTube Frunk Puppy, there's Instagram Frunk Puppy, there's a Twitter account Frunk Puppy, but my main account is at 28 Delays Later, if you want to follow me there. And yeah, that's my stuff.
Yeah, man, it's been absolutely fantastic having you on. It's been a blast. It's been really funny. You've been one of the more entertaining guests, of course, with Nuclear Geek. He's been insane too.
That was super fun.
Yeah, it was super fun. I ended up drinking way too many beers that I thought I was, and I ended up being quiet the entire time.
Perfect. I had a great time. It was really wonderful to talk to all of you.
Oh yeah, it was great. It's finally
Our pleasure.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I would love to have you on again sometime. We actually do these weird things where we have it's like a live stream and we play this game called Quiplash. And have you ever played Cards Against Humanity?
Oh yeah, somebody was explaining this to me the other day.
Yeah. It's basically
I have.
Yeah, it's basically that, and we all get in and we make the shittiest jokes that we can think of, and it's pretty fun. I think it'd be a blast to have you on. It might not be as wholesome as you would think because Jeremy might pop in, but it's all around.
It would
great
be
time.
awesome to have you on there, Earl. It'd be
Yeah.
very cool.
That was fun. Yeah.
I look forward to competing with you sometime in February February 1st on the Apple Fitness competition.
Yes, we want to see you in the competition and tweeting about it. We had 85. We went from 8 people to 85 people, and now we want to see how many people we can get in February. There's prizes. It's a lot of fun. We shit talk in the comments.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's fun. We'll add you to the what would you say? It's an influencer group message where
we use the hashtag Witness the Fitness. There's only one other person using it, and it's a bunch of male models.
Can we talk about that? Because like there's a guy that keeps doing all these male model.
I found that we were trying to figure out what hashtag to use, and I came up with Witness the Fitness. And then it was great because there wasn't really much on Twitter about it. And then once we started the competition, suddenly there's this like guy that's just posting, and he constantly posts with the hashtag, and it's all
it's all gay. It's all nude male models.
Tweeting right now.
But
anyway.
But definitely join our competition for February, and it's a lot of fun. It keeps you fit, and all you really need to do is close your rings to keep up. But if you really want to go,
it's a blast. You get fit, man. It's awesome. Well, anyway, guys, thank you so much for staying and watching this entire podcast. If you made it this far, like Earl said, you can find him on his website, his Twitter at 28 Delays Later. I thank you guys all for watching. Thank you so much. See ya.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone.